Hello and welcome to the Elemental Entrepreneurship Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah, and my friends, I'm excited. Today on the show, we have Kyrus Keenan Westcott, a very formal and fancy name, popularly known as Ky from The Vibe with Ky. Ky is a dynamic content creator whose work primarily addresses mental health complexities for an adult audience. His content, particularly impactful within the African American community, offers a mix of humor and authenticity, resonating with followers across English-speaking regions. Ky's platforms span Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. If you have a screen, his face is on it, engaging users through educational materials, webinars, and interactions with mental health professionals. His mission is to dismantle mental health stigma, blending laughter with realism. Central to his approach are themes like mental health awareness, personal mental health journeys, therapy and treatment options, humor and healing, community support, expert insights, daily coping strategies, balancing realism and optimism, and empowerment and advocacy, all aimed at fostering solidarity and guidance in mental well-being. Hi.
Hi, that
Thank you
was
for being on
that
the
was
show.
epic. That was epic. And I think you did that first try, like with first go. That's amazing.
Your girl's a reader.
I like it. That's amazing.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. I was gonna just
Yeah.
start the show. Two introverted musical theater nerds with ADHD
Yeah.
to a podcast.
That's the story of my life. I'm if I'm not listening to a podcast, I'm listening to musical theater of some sort. That's my life.
You
Legit.
recently wrapped playing King Triton. Is
I
that true?
did. I did. I played King Triton in the Little Mermaid, the musical. And now I'm heading into in January, starting in January, I'm directing Ghost, the musical. So yeah, it's just nonstop for me, and I like that. That's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. You're
Yeah.
directing this time. Are you in the show
Yeah.
as well?
No, oh gosh, no.
Okay.
No, I've been directing for about 15 years now. So this will probably be, I want to say, like maybe like show 25 for me that I've directed, musical wise.
Okay. I just realized that this conversation is going to go in a direction I didn't expect. Because at a certain point, we're going to talk about bringing theater into content creation for social media.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
That's too exciting. But
Sure thing.
first, I guess I want to start with like obviously your platform, you talk a lot about having ADHD and being diagnosed as an adult. I also have ADHD and was diagnosed as an adult. A lot of people in my community and people that I work with are neurodivergent of some sort, and many
hmm
are diagnosed as adults. And so I guess I want to just start with when did you get diagnosed? And I love hearing about the trail of ahas that
Oh
happen.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it all started for me back in 2022. That I was having a legitimate mental breakdown in my bedroom, which is right behind me, in the wall in the room next door. And I was struggling very much so. And my roommate at the time was like, "You need help." And my girlfriend at the time was like, "You need help." And I knew that I needed help as well. And so I went and got help. I went to go talk to a mental health professional. And at that point, I was diagnosed with severe depression and generalized anxiety disorder. And as I was starting my treatment for both of those things and starting, therapy, I still felt off. I still felt like something was still wrong. And so at that point, I would say a couple months later is when I was told that I should get tested for ADHD. And I was like, I don't have ADHD. Well, like, that's for little boys that can't sit still. like that's not for me. What are you talking about? And so I ended up getting tested, and coming to find out, I am high functioning ADHD. I don't even have ADHD. I have ADH4K. Like, it's just clear as day. like like I just have it. And it was funny because once I was diagnosed, I started doing more research on it, and I was like, wow, the signs have been here my entire life. Like, it's just been there and nobody said anything. So there were a bunch of aha moments after my diagnosis of all of those things, because I realized that these are things that I've been struggling with for the longest time. But now I'm glad that I'm able to put a name to it. I'm able to have some clarity and, manage it in a way that helps me be productive in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so relatable. It's interesting. I also was diagnosed first with depression and anxiety, but when I was much younger.
Mm.
And I think it's really common in our medical system in general to have your symptoms diagnosed as your primary condition. And so when I started learning that depression and anxiety were symptoms of ADHD,
Yeah.
I was like, well, there you go. Well, that makes
Yeah, that
sense.
explains my life. That
Yeah.
explains everything. Yeah.
Aha. um, and what do you think were some of the key things for you where you were like, I can't believe no one caught this as ADHD?
Oh man. I used to beat myself up all the time because I used to think that I wasn't working hard enough, that I was lazy, that I just didn't have that drive in me. Come to find out, my executive dysfunction was holding me down. I wasn't able to to manage my executive function at all my entire life. So I wasn't able to push the start button on anything. And it wasn't a matter of me being lazy or being a person that didn't have drive. It's just there was a literal chemical issue in my brain that was preventing me from pushing the start button. So that's one. Time blindness is a huge thing for me. So I used to think that I was just dumb because I was just always keeping track of time. I was always late to things. And coming to find out, time blindness is a thing that some people with ADHD have to deal with. So it was like little things like that things that I was struggling with my entire life that I realized these have to do with little chemical things happening inside of my brain that explains all of these things that I've been struggling with my entire life. And so once I was able to put a finger on top of all of that, I was like, oh man, I feel like I know what direction I'm supposed to be going right now. It's a good feeling.
I am so glad you said that because I found it such a relief. And I've seen memes that say things like there's the whenever you start feel like you land first on a neurodivergent side of the internet and you're like, why am I getting this content? Because they know us
Yeah.
better than we do. And then you're like,
Yes.
oh, could I? Maybe. And then you're like, no, I don't. And then you're like, maybe I do. And then you get assessed and you're
Yeah.
like, I do. And then you're like, am I just being a whiny bitch? There's no way this is real. This can't be real. This is still just an excuse. And then you're like, oh wait, I'm neurodivergent as fuck. Like it's like
Yeah,
full
and
arc.
that's
And
one of the
then it's
beautiful things about social
relieving.
media. Uh-huh.
And it's so relieving. Like it's
Oh
such
yeah.
a like, like, okay, I can start like first of all, I love just being able to like think, okay, I can start addressing the real issue.
Yes.
All of this
Yes.
time I've spent chasing around these symptoms and trying to come up with systems for not missing appointments, right? Like all these
Mm-hmm.
things. I'm like, no,
Oh
none
yeah,
of
like
that is
little
really
alarms
working.
and timers that you put up around the house and stuff. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely when I was getting assessed, they were like, "Do you have
Uh-huh.
trouble like keeping appointments?" And I was like, "No."
Oh my God.
Before you see I have a system.
You
And
see,
my
I
system
have
is that I have a digital calendar and a paper calendar and I have alarms on my phone. Now, if any
yeah.
one of those systems fail, then yes, I will miss the appointment, but I'm great. And they were like, "Yeah, that's not."
Yeah, that's not when you have to set up contraptions like you're Kevin in Home Alone in order for you to make it to an event on time. That's probably something that you should probably look into. Like that was me. I was
I
like,
didn't know that
well,
wasn't normal.
everybody doesn't do this. Oh, okay. All right.
You don't
Well,
have an elaborate system to remember to put on socks? Like, why
that's
not?
not everybody. It's just us neuro spicy people. Interesting. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
got it. Um, so you get diagnosed, you feel relieved. At what point was the next stage like, I'm gonna open up my phone and talk to the whole world about it?
Well, luckily for me, I was kind of already doing that because in 2018, I ruptured my Achilles, which is one of the worst things you can do to your foot. And I started a blog to document how I was feeling and my physical recovery from that. And it was called Good Vibes with Ky. And it started out as a blog, and then I started filming myself, sitting in front of my computer, just talking about my recovery and how I was feeling and how I was just gonna live a life full of positive energy, because like rupturing your Achilles freaking sucks. It's not fun. Like you legitimately can't put any weight on it. I wasn't able to drive or walk or run or do any of the things that I was used to. I was forced to work from home, and this was before COVID. So I was working from home before it was cool, and like the technology just wasn't there for that. Um, so I was already at home talking to my camera about how I was feeling. And from there, it just kind of gradually turned into my mental health journey, because I realized that people were very interested in hearing about that for some weird reason. And so and I'm joking when I say that, but because I know like people were latching onto it, because people were like, oh wait, this guy is going through what I'm going through, like I'm not alone. There's other people that are dealing with the things that I have to deal with every day. So to be able to talk about that and help people feel validated and not alone is a really cool feeling. So yeah, in regards to picking up my phone and talking to it, yeah, I had already been bitten by that bug for a while before my diagnosis. So I just kind of easily slipped into that. That was no problem.
Did you see a huge surge in followers and popularity when you started talking about ADHD?
Absolutely not.
Mm.
Absolutely not. It started honestly, my f- uh, my surge honestly started in 2020 on TikTok, right? Well, like most people's surges kind of happened. But at the time I was just being silly. Like it was just really dumb stuff that I was talking about on TikTok. And then from there I started documenting me watching Gilmore Girls, because I had never seen it. And like I'm not, for those of you that can't see me right now, I'm a 36-year-old black man. I'm not the demographic for Gilmore Girls at all. Right.
I have also never seen it, and looking at me, you might think I was, but I never seen
Yeah, like
it.
I just it just wasn't, but people told me I should watch it, and it was my first viral video, like me making fun of my old roommate who was rocking out to the theme song of Gilmore Girls. I was like, what the heck? That was my first viral video ever. And so people were like, well, why don't you just watch it? So I started watching it and I documented it. So that's how I started to get like a bigger following. And then from there is when I shifted over to mental health. And I would say in the last year and a half, talking about depression, anxiety, ADHD, and introversion, like things, they have taken off. My first jolt was from Gilmore Girls and such, but since then, like a majority of my audience has come from like ADHD, introversion, that kind of thing.
Yeah. What's coming up for me as I think about this is that for those of you who it hasn't happened to, going viral can be one of the most dysregulating and uncomfortable experiences.
It's so uncomfortable.
And so, as someone who, first of all, I'll say, y'all, right now, Kai made a post of something dumb. There's not even himself, two other dudes arguing about something else. And
Yes.
I made a dumb comment on this post where I said, just unplug humanity and plug it back in at this point, which isn't even my joke. That comment is still every day that I open Instagram, the most engaged
Yeah.
thing. There's like 33,000 likes on this
Yeah.
one comment.
Yeah.
It won't go down. Like it's still going. And I'm like, y'all, this isn't
Mhm.
even that funny. But it's so intense to have so many people's
Yeah.
eyeballs and
Yeah.
opinions and so much engagement. And as somebody who already tends toward depression, tends toward anxiety,
Yeah.
leans toward introversion, struggles with overwhelm,
Yeah.
how has it been for you to experience that like daily for years?
It's so weird because for those of you that don't know my content, like I make a lot of sounds for people. I like making content where people, you know, can just use my sounds. Like that's my big thing. I want people to be able to just like recreate scenes using my voice. And so I've been very fortunate that that's been very successful for me. But the weird part is that like I'm scrolling through any platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I'll just hear my voice. People in here listening right now, even if you haven't like followed me before, you've probably heard my voice before, which is really weird to say. Because apparently I guess I have a recognizable voice. But like that attention, it's really, really difficult sometimes. It's a humbling experience because I mean, you have eyeballs from all over the globe and everybody has an opinion and everybody wants you to know what their opinion is. And so at first for me, it was like, because I wanted everybody to like me and I wanted everybody to just be happy. And then I learned very fast, not everybody's gonna like you. And that's okay. I'm at a point now, it's like, okay, like that's fine. If you don't like my content, you don't have to watch it. You can just keep scrolling. But it is a lot of attention. And I did struggle with it at first, like any kind of viral video, because people can be very mean sometimes. It's not often, but people can be very mean because I talk openly about my mental health. And so people can be mean. 98% of the people out there are incredibly sweet, incredibly nice, incredibly supportive and validating. But there's always that 2%
Mhm.
that just have an agenda, that just want to tear you down sometimes. That can be tough. On the other end, there's also sometimes I feel like a certain pressure because mental health is such a personal thing and journey that people go through. And I'm not a mental health professional. I just talk to people about my journey. And so people will often come to me asking for advice and tips and all that. And like that's tough for me because I don't ever pretend to be a mental health professional. I don't ever want people to think I am. So there is sometimes a pressure, and I have to understand the responsibility that I have with the platform that I have to make sure I'm putting out information that is factual, that is relatable, and information that can help people.
Yeah. Um, has it ever been hard for you to get negative comments, negative feedback? Do you engage a lot in the comments?
Yeah, I used to. I used to engage in the negative side, but now I just ignore it. There's nothing that like that people that leave negative comments and stuff like that. There's nothing that they hate more than not getting attention. They hate it, especially if they see I comment on everything else except for that. So I honestly I just ignore it because I know that there's people that just will always have something to say. That's okay. They have the right, they have a right to do that. They have a right to feel the way that they feel, but I also have a right to completely ignore it and to not let it ruin my day. So it's I've been doing it for such a long time now that I have a very thick skin. Um, but I always tell like new people to the social media world that make content, like you gotta be ready. If you put yourself out there, people are gonna say anything they want, both good and bad. You gotta be ready for that. And you can't take it personal. You just gotta keep pushing forward. Remember what your goal is and focus on that, not on the negative side.
Yeah. I'm just going to share this because it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting and anyone who's listening might be interested in it. I don't think I've ever talked about this before, but I had a coaching client in a life coaching program once who
Uh-huh.
quite vulnerably shared that she was a troll, that she was like a shit commenter.
Wow.
And first of all, I want to say it was one of the few times I've ever had in coaching where it was really hard for me to stay super open and curious and neutral
Yeah.
and ask questions and just try not to be like, just stop it. Like I couldn't do that, as a coach.
Wow.
And I was asking a lot of questions about it. And I was
Yeah.
like, the value to this is that, first of all, this is a person who's open and vulnerable enough to share this thing that's like really embarrassing for an adult to
Mm-hmm.
share. Um,
Yeah.
and to get some insight. And really it was like she was so profoundly lonely,
Mm.
and she knew that when she made antagonistic comments that made people angry, she got so many more responses
Mm-hmm.
and she got so much more engagement. And when I would talk to her about, like, what if you took that same amount of time every day and went and
Mm-hmm.
made 10 positive comments on people's posts, she was like, when I used to do that, like nobody answered me. And when I started being nasty, like people started answering me,
Yeah.
and I get this rush, and like it doesn't feel good, but it feels like something. And it was
Yeah.
sad, but also very insightful to hear. And so now when I do encounter like negative comments and people who are mean, like it does help me to be like, oh, this is a person who's probably profoundly lonely and has learned that being nasty online, right? Even if like all your followers jump in and defend you, that person still got 50 comments today.
Yeah, yeah. It's I just interviewed somebody, my friend Andrea Santiago. She is from Chicago and a licensed therapist, and we were talking about the connection between social media and mental health. And one of the things that we were talking about is how you get a high off of that attention that people give you, right? And so whenever people get attention from just being an ass, right? What they need to understand is that that's a very fickle thing and response that you're getting. And so, yeah, you might be getting the attention now, but in the long run, it's not going to do you any good. Now, on the other side, yeah, you may not get as much attention from posting a positive comment, but you need to understand that positive comment is actually helping people. So people may not respond in droves, but it only takes one person for you to help and to make their day better, for it to be worth it. Like that's all it takes. You don't have to lead a life of negativity, because if you lead a life of negativity, negativity will follow you everywhere you go, and you're going to make that your life. And negative people are very fickle. And if you want to surround yourself with negative people, that's on you, but you're not going to get anywhere in life. So it's like, what's your goal? What is your overall goal for what you post online? And that's what I remind myself of, because I could easily, if I wanted to, dedicate my platform to responding to the negative shit that's said out there. But then I'm like, what's the point other than the right here, right now?
Yeah.
What about in the long run? Is this video, anytime I post a video, I always ask myself, is this helping somebody? And if the answer is no, I don't post it, because what's the point? It's that at that point it's all about me and nothing else. For me, I'm like, it's not about me. I'm telling my story, right? But like, for me, like, I want people to help. I want to help people. Like, that's my goal. So if it's not going to help people, then I'm not going to post it, because there's no point, So like, I that's the way I go about it. Not everybody goes about it that way, but that's how I do it.
Yeah, I love that. This is a whole separate podcast series, right? We can just talking about like the way that social media
Yeah.
functions. And I've really had to like come to understand, like for me, where I'm at with social media in general right now is understanding that like most of the time it's not a place for good faith debates. Like people aren't
Hmm.
interested in having their mind changed a lot of the time, especially people who are making negative comments. It's like this is not a place where you could engage in a conversation. The person who's making this comment is not open. They don't want a conversation. They're not interested in having their mind changed. Like they want to come in and say something, and the people who agree with them will line up behind them, and the people who
Mhm.
don't agree will line up on the other side, and they'll play a weird game of internet red rover, and then they'll go on about their day. And it's like I don't want
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
involved in any of it.
Yeah, it's all about intention, so like, if you want to engage with somebody about something, it's like, what is your intention of engaging with them? If your intention is to change your mind, is to change their mind, and they're not going to change your mind, it's like, why waste your energy? Like, why even? Because they're just doing it for, again, for themselves, for validation on their end. So like, that's not going to help anybody to get,
Don't
so
give
it's
it to
like,
them.
yeah, yeah, so why give them the attention? It's not even worth it.
So to pivot from trolls, they've gotten enough of our time. As you were making skits, were you ever conscious about bringing theater and theater training into the way that you started setting up skits, or is that like a really natural thing?
It's so natural. I started doing musical theater in 8th grade. So it's been a part of me for the longest time. Well, from there, I did high school theater, like, all throughout my years of high school. I went to college for it at Rider University, where I was an acting major. So like, and then even after college, like, I was very fortunate to have a very cool, blessed, professional theatrical career. Like, it's just part of who I am, to be able to perform and entertain people. So making the videos, and stuff like that, it just naturally comes. And the from the various reactions to um timing, like, when it comes to comedy, like, timing is everything. And so like, I took so many comedy classes growing up, and to be able to perfect timing with comedy, you can make anything funny. You can legit make anything funny if you have the timing down. And so for me, like it's all about timing. That's where I usually start, and then I work backwards. I'll usually have a punchline. I'll usually know like the point that I want people to laugh, and then from there I get the timing down, and then from there I'll do the setup. Um, and that I learned all of that from my theatrical life, from either performing or watching other people perform.
I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
What are your favorite types of things to film? Do you like doing more straight to the camera? Do you like making skits more? Like, what are your favorite kinds of things to make?
I I love making straight to the camera type of videos where I'm just talking to people, like talking directly to the person. Those are my favorite to film because like that's legitimately like me talking to you. Like I love that. I love to be able to have that connection with people. But the videos that do the best for me performance wise are the ones where I'm going back and forth, where I'm playing multiple characters, where people can like use my voice and stuff like that. Those are the ones that perform the best for me statistically. But I love being able to just look at the camera and talk to people face to face, have that eye contact with them, and have them be able to make eye contact with me, because you're able to have this digital bridge, of eye contact, and people can see that I'm trying to be as genuine as I can with what I'm saying and things like that. So um yeah, I don't prefer. I enjoy very much making the to the camera type of comedy, but people love when I do the back and forth thing. So I just continue to do that. That's no problem. It's fine. I have fun with it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So before we got on, we were talking about, so you're making content,
Hmm.
you're directing and being in shows,
Yeah.
and then you have another job, right?
I have a full-time job.
That's a lot of
Uh,
jobs.
it is. It's 24 hours, honestly. It's 24 hours and it's exhausting. But sometimes people ask me, how do you work a 9 to 5 and then come home and either make content or go to rehearsal or go to perform? How do you do it? And I tell people it's really easy for me because I enjoy it. I'm doing things that I enjoy. I work in marketing. I love marketing, like digital marketing. Like that's something that I very much enjoy. I love helping my clients, making content. I love making content. I love making these silly videos for people and talking about mental health. I love performing. I love directing. I have filled my life with things that bring me joy. So it doesn't feel like it's work to me, and time flies by for me every single day because like I am doing things that I enjoy. So it never feels like a burden for me. It never feels like, oh, here we go, I got to go to rehearsal again, or I got to go to work again, like I got to make content again. Like nobody's forcing me to do any of this. Like I very much find joy in everything that I do. So it a lot? Is it tiring? Yes, it's very tiring. But like what keeps me going is the fact that I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing people smile. I enjoy the role that I can play in people's lives to make their day a little bit better. However I can, I enjoy bringing business to my clients to make their day a little bit better. Like that brings me joy. So it doesn't feel like jobs to me. It's just what I do.
I love that. With content creation, I think one of the things that I hear the most from people about content creation is about like the the demand, right? For like
Hmm.
how much you need to create.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's juggling with your job with shows, are you like a batch creator? Are you filming tons and tons of stuff and batching it up and doing scheduling?
Oh yeah.
You're nodding, so
I
yeah.
I content batch everything. So like I'll all the skits that you'll see during the week, I'll I may not have filmed over the weekend, but I wrote over the weekend. So Saturdays and Sundays are usually my prep slash writing days. So I'll spend those days writing and coming up with concepts or filming podcasts or whatever it may be. I prep for the week. And then during the week, I will film it. Unless if it's something really intricate, I'll film it ahead of time. But like a lot of my skits are 15 seconds or shorter, so I'll film all of those like the day of. Like I know what I'm posting every single day. Sometimes I'll like get an idea for something. And if I don't want to wait till next week to post it, then I'll film it, that day. But more often than not, most of the sketches that you see me do are all sketches that I came up with either the week before or over the weekend. And I wrote it out and I figured out how I want to say things, when I'm going to post it, and then kind of go from there.
I love that. How
Hmm.
many pieces of content are you putting out a week right now?
A lot. Um, so just like reels and TikToks alone, I put out about 2 to 3 a day, and I've been doing that since 2020. So 3 years straight of putting out 2 to 3 videos a day. That's a lot of videos, right? And then on top of that, I have my website where I put up a new like 1 to 2 blogs every week. Um, and then I have my podcast where I put up 1 to 2 podcast episodes per week. Um, I have my newsletter. I'll usually send out like 2 or 3 times a week. I have my subscribers on Instagram and Facebook that I'll make special content for them. So that's usually about 3 or 4 videos a week. And then on top of that, I have um, my private Facebook group where I make content specifically for them as well. But again, all of that stuff
Y'all, I
I'll
want
work
to
on
throw
over
my
the
laptop
weekend.
out the window.
But like I batch everything. So like I'll give you an example, right? So I'll pick a topic, right? Say the topic is 5 ways for your to be a better ADHD person at work, right? I'll write a blog about that. And then from there, I'll I'll make a podcast based upon the information in that blog. And then from there, I'll come up with sketch ideas about ADHD based upon the things that I talk about in that blog. So like it's all batching. So it all comes from like the same inspiration, and then it just kind of goes from there. So it's not like it's hard. It's not hard. It's tedious, but it's not difficult. It's just very tedious. It does take a lot of time.
I put out a fraction of that much content, and I'm just trying to imagine trying to create that much and have a day job and be in shows. And I'm amazed. Like
it's
yeah.
I used to put out more. I actually used to put out more, but then I realized uh quality over quantity. And so I don't put out anything that I think is shitty. Like I really try to avoid that. And I say that to other content creators all the time that ask me for advice. Like I always tell people, you don't have to put out the amount of content that I put out. Like there's content creators that I know that are very successful that put out 1 video a week, and that's all they need, because they focus so much on the quality as opposed to quantity, and that's okay. Every content creator is different. My stuff, while it is a lot, it's very easy for me to make. So writing a blog, like I'm a writer, so writing a blog takes me 20 minutes to write a blog, a little bit longer when I'm like proofreading it and stuff like that. But making a podcast, most of the time, like I don't need a script. I'm either interviewing somebody or I'm just talking off the top of my head about a topic. So like that's really easy for me to do. Like, so I find stuff that's really easy for me, and then I just focus on those things because I know they're going to be high quality.
I love that so much. And are you're it's just you. You don't have a team. You're doing this all by yourself.
It's me and my 2 cats, Hamilton and Burr.
Love it. I would
Yeah.
also guess that they're not super helpful. Like they're not scheduling
No,
posts for you.
no. And they live with me. They don't pay any rent. They haven't paid rent in 2 years. They don't make food when I get home, they don't make food. Like they poop in a box. They're no help. No
Yeah.
help.
No, not at all.
It's ridiculous.
I do think, though, as a fellow cat owner, that
Uh-huh.
the ways that they help are that they are excellent modelers of boundaries
Oh yeah.
and that they are constantly teaching us about being in the moment and pleasure,
Yes.
and also like being completely like unashamed, right? Like there's no one
Oh yeah.
less shamed than cats. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
I'm walking down the hall and I decide I want to flop onto my back and take a nap mid walk, I'm gonna do it. And I have
Yes.
no feelings about it. I'm just doing what I want in the moment, pure primal instinct.
Yes. Absolutely. Like, but I'm glad you used the word boundaries because like they make their like I have two cats. They're both brothers from the same litter, but their personalities couldn't be any more different. And they both have a different set of boundaries that they set with each other and with me. Right. And they even understand my boundaries now. Like they understand and all that. And I'm glad you used the word boundaries. I'm literally reading a book right now called The Boundary Revolution by my friend Judy Hu, which talks all about boundaries, and setting it for people, and to, as to your point, not being ashamed to set those boundaries. It's just like like boundaries for yourself, for your friends, your family, your coworkers, whatever it may be. Just like set it and then have people make sure people respect it, including yourself, for you, you know?
Yeah. It's boundaries also, and like a complete unshaming around needs.
Oh
Right. 'Cause,
yeah.
like, we
Yeah.
also know their
Mhm.
personalities, which I always find so fascinating. Like, all cat owners know. Like, I know that Rosie, my cats are named Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, by the way.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
I also know that Rosie wants, she has a very specific blanket that she likes to need
Mm.
when it's nap time. So I
Hmm.
know when she starts walking around in a certain way that she needs her blanket. And I also know
Oh.
that, like, when Gilly wants to lay in my lap, she only wants to lay in my lap if the blue blanket is on my lap. And so people will see me doing these things, and I'm just like, I just know their needs, and they
Hmm.
will make it very clear to me what their
Yep.
needs are. They don't feel embarrassed in any way about being
Yeah.
like so demanding, because let me tell you,
Yes.
if the blanket is not there, the next step is like, I'm gonna get a claw, things will be knocked off a table. Like, there will be hell to pay if the
Yes.
needs are not delivered on. And as somebody who
Mhm.
is a recovering codependent people pleaser, I'm
Me
like,
too.
wow, you can just
Yeah.
demand
Oh
the
yeah.
treatment you want and settle for
Absolutely.
nothing less. I will not take the blue blanket when I want the white one, and vice versa.
Yeah, they definitely know. They definitely let you know what they want and when they want it. My boys, Hammy loves to like lay on my lap, and like if I'm not sitting in a position that is conducive for him to lay on my lap, he like will annoy the hell out of me until I move my legs to position that'll help that. So that's Hammy, and then Burr, he likes to lay on my chest. So like even if I'm sitting up, he will just like climb up and like force me to like lean back so that I'm in a position that is nice for him. So like they will definitely make sure that you understand what they need and when they need it.
Yeah, and, like, one of my best friends, her cat likes to be, like, on her shoulder like a parrot
Mm,
all the
hmm.
time, and then her other cat doesn't like to be picked up at all, and it's just amazing that
Yeah.
you learn these
Hmm.
they just, and
Hmm.
I do feel like, yes, they live here rent free, and they've
Yes.
never paid a bill, and they are like my self-help gurus, and that I study them and I learn
Yes.
from them, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try to take that into all of my relationships too, like touch boundaries, like touch
Yeah.
me here but not here, and for this long,
Yeah.
and when I'm done, I'm just walking away and I don't care. Like,
Hmm.
all of it is great.
Yes, yeah, and they're my best friends. Like I come home. It's just me living here, so like I come home and like I just feel loved whenever I. It might be because I provide food for them, but like still, I still feel loved at the end of the day.
I have told all my friends though, if you ever don't hear from me for a couple days, please come get them because they'll eat me.
They will eat you. No, they
Yeah.
really will.
That's sad. I had a dog
Hmm.
before, and I was like, yeah, if I died in the house and my dog was here, he'd like get help. My cats will eat me.
Yeah, no, cats are like will legitimately they will eat you.
Yeah, you gonna provide food one way or another.
Hmm. Yep, legit. That is a true story. I wish I was joking. I am definitely not joking. That is a
So
true
sad
story.
and scary.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
These
Yep.
are the things that adults who live alone with cats have to think
Oh
about.
yeah. Oh yeah. I think about it all the time. I'm like, if I don't text you back in 24 hours, come get me. They are not going to eat my face. They're not. I need to look good at my funeral.
Hey, I want an open casket.
Right. Right. I don't want bite marks on there. Come on now.
I actually don't, y'all. I want a sailor's burial. You heard it here first. I want you to wrap me in a canvas hammock and throw me overboard. I would rather be eaten by fish than worms.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Okay. Well,
Let the record state.
why not just get like cremated? You won't get eaten by anything.
I just really like the ocean.
That's fair. Okay. I understand.
Yeah, if I'm gonna
I'll
go
I'll
back,
I'll make sure that happens for
go.
you.
Thanks, man. If I'm gonna go back to source in somewhere, take me to my favorite beach.
That's
Take
fair.
the yacht out. I want everyone to get like housewives trashed on the yacht,
That's
and then just throw
hilarious.
me overboard.
That's hilarious. I want to be
That's
there for that. I
yeah,
hope it's no time soon,
yeah.
obviously, but like I want to be there when that happens. And I want to think back on that moment on December 15th. December
Seriously.
16th, 2023, when we had this conversation. I'm like, oh, I remember those days.
You know what? Let's make that happen for us. I love it.
Yes.
This is the most ADHD podcast episode I've ever had. I hope you love this so much. This makes me this is pure joy.
This is the story of my life.
Um, we tricked you. You came here to hear about ADHD and content, and you heard about cats, and that
Yes.
is an
And
object
you're
lesson in
not going to complain
ADHD
about it either
content
because
creation.
you're with us on this journey and you're enjoying it, damn it.
I'm into it. Okay, so here's my next question.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with all of these platforms that you're building, these followers that you're amassing? Where are you, Pied Piper? Where are you leading them?
Good question. To be honest, that's it's such a tough question to ask because to answer because each platform's so different and they all change so often. Like for example, one of my most engaged platforms right now is Facebook. And like I would have never thought that Facebook would be like my most engaged platform, but it is. And so that wasn't the case like this time last year, right? So that was a shift for me. But overall, I think at the end of the day, I just want to be able to reach as many people as possible so that they can understand number one, that they're not alone. And number two, that it's okay to talk about mental health. And number three, that you can add levity to dark conversations. Uh, like if those three things, if I can check off those boxes, it like that's a success for me. When I was growing up, there weren't many men, especially black men, talking about mental health. So like the big goal for me is if one day I get an email or something from somebody um talking about a young black boy that saw one of my videos and was helped and decided to get help or was helped by this kind of stuff. Like the day that I received that message, I'm like, did it, I win, this is all worth it, I got it, I win life. Because I was able to help at least one black boy, because I didn't have that when I was young. So if I can say that's my ultimate goal, that's I just need one, just one, that's it.
I love that so much. If you had the option to go like between commercials, podcast sponsorships, paid content, to like go full time in content creation and leave your job, would you?
No, absolutely
Oh,
not. No, never. Never, never, never. Social media, I content creation, I love it to death. I will always dabble in it and all of that. I will never, ever, ever make content creation my full-time job. It is too fickle and it can go like I mean anything can go away at the snap of fingers, but like it can really go away at the snap of a couple fingers and you can't do shit about it. Um I understand why people go full time into it, but like the amount of people that have successfully done it is so minimal. I have big ambitions outside of content creation that require me to have like that steady income. Um, Plus, I also enjoy marketing too much to leave it. Like it's just a different creative outlet that I get. So the only way that I would ever go into content creation full time is if I was content creating for like as like a job for a company. Like that was like I was like their hired person. Like I was like, like Flo from Progressive or something like I was their spokesperson,
I could see you doing
or
that.
Jake from State Farm. Like that. Like if I was like one of
Not all
those kind
state.
of
You're not
things,
trying to
I'll
be in
do
good
that.
hands.
Yeah, like I'll do that, but like just on my own, no. But like I get why people do it and I get how people do it because there is money in content creation. But no, I would never. Absolutely not. Mm-mm.
That's
It's too
fascinating.
scary.
It's just scary. I think that's really important for people to hear because especially
Yeah.
like for this audience, so many of the people that I'm working with are entrepreneurs who are
Mm.
A lot of them are, I would call them reluctant content creators, right? Like they're
Mm,
making content honestly because they want to funnel people into
sure.
their paid service. And
Yeah.
so they are going into learning, first of all, learning marketing and learning content creation and trying to build these platforms
Hmm.
with the goal of converting some of those followers into customers for their business. Which, first of
Hmm.
all, like I just want to say for anyone listening who maybe hasn't heard this before, those are very separate aims. Growing
Yes.
growing a platform for the sake of growing a platform and being an influencer, being a content creator with no other goal is not the same gig as growing a platform with the goal of converting people into your paid offers. And if
Facts.
you're confused about that, join the Elemental Entrepreneurship Covenant on LinkedIn. But
Yeah.
I see a lot
Yeah.
of people, mm, first of all, like a lot of business owners would love to have that size of platform because they
Hmm.
feel like it would help their business.
Hmm.
And so they are following models set forth by people who are building content creation platforms that or influencer platforms that
Yeah.
don't convert back to business. And they're just such different pathways,
Yeah.
and such different goals for content. And so I think it's really important for people to hear A, that you could decide to pursue content creation because you enjoy it, not because you're
Hmm.
looking to monetize it. And
Hmm.
also that you can have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and followers and not be making money off of that. And there
Hmm.
are a lot of people who have built huge platforms and then try to monetize and it doesn't work for them.
Hmm.
Whether that's dropping a product or they're trying to monetize on the platform. And like
Yeah.
we've seen, models or whatever, you have 1 million followers, you try to put out a lip gloss line and no one buys it. Like that's not what
Yeah.
they follow you for.
Yeah. 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 It's tough. It's really, really tough because like I don't want people to think that like you can't go into content creation or you shouldn't, because I will never tell anybody like what to do or how to do it. I can only talk about things for like from my experience and things that I've had to deal with. Monetizing on social media or content platforms in general is very, very difficult. I'm at a point now that I'm fortunate enough to make money off of platforms directly from the platform itself, as in like not from necessarily from like subscribers, like I'm like as in like I'm not taking money out of other people's pockets, but like from advertisers and the platform paying me to make creations, are me signing partnership deals, with big companies and stuff like that. um and that's where a majority of like my content creation money comes from. When you're pushing a product, that's hard, because people, like for example for me, I make silly videos that last 15 seconds about mental health or introversion, whatever it may be. And then if I decide, like I have a book about ADHD that I wrote, a digital guidebook, right? And that costs money for people to get. Pushing that is hard because like I don't want people to think that I'm just like doing a cash grab. But to that end, I also know the value of my time and my efforts. So is it my main goal to sell that book? No. But it is a way for me to have a passive income if people wanted to buy it. But I don't my end goal isn't solely based on that. What I always tell people that are either entrepreneurs or running a business, especially some of my clients, I always have them tell me, what is your end goal? What is the thing that you want to do? Once you can answer that for me, let's work backwards. Content creation platforms are just one of the many channels that you can use to get to that end goal. It is not the only thing that you can use. There's so many different options that you can use. But at the end of the day, every decision that you make needs to be something that leads you to that end goal, not vice versa. If that makes sense,
Absolutely.
right? Like remind yourself what that end goal is for you. For me, the end goal is to just get people's attention and end the stigma surrounding mental health. That's my end goal. Anything else leads to that, always. So if 100 million people don't buy my ADHD book, that's okay. But like a bunch of people did, and that leads to this end goal right over here. Same thing for any entrepreneur or any business owner. Know what your end goal is, and then pick which streams, which platforms, which channels you want to use to get to that end goal, and never forget that end goal ever.
That's so important. And it's really valuable to consider. And I think that it's really easy to get overwhelmed, especially to tie back to being an entrepreneur with ADHD.
Yeah.
It's like being in Vegas, like there's like every surface lights up and there's noises everywhere,
Oh
right? Like
yeah.
everywhere you
Yeah.
turn, there's somebody being like, you should be on this platform, you should be doing it like this, you should be creating this, you should be over here. And you're seeing other people be successful in certain places. And especially when you want your thing to pop off so bad, it can be really easy to start thinking, well, if that's working for that person, should I abandon what I'm
Yeah.
doing and go over here? And just
Right.
start like chasing all of these different tactics
Yeah.
trying to make your thing happen. And so being laser focused on on your goal, but also this is the thing that I not only struggle with, but I feel like I was having a conversation with myself in my head last night about how one of my main roles when I work with artists, especially artists with ADHD, is to, I don't like to use the word discipline because it's not really the word that I mean, but to have the maturity and the patience to see a project through to completion before you abandon it for the squirrel.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like a big deal because you can
Hmm.
be mid project, and this is the thing, right? I shot the video. The editing part is not where I get my dopamine. That part's not fun for me. I don't want to do
Right.
it anymore. So now the project is shelved, or well, I wrote all of this stuff, but I don't love the editing process and then the
Yeah.
marketing process, right? Like the getting it complete and out and into the world might not be the fun part for you. You might really
Right.
like the initial ideating and the
Right.
planning and the costumes and there might be other stuff that's shinier and
Hmm.
more fun. And so I know so many creatives who get halfway through a project and then they feel like they're bored with it. And there's some new idea that sounds sexier and more
Yeah.
exciting to switch to. And
Yeah.
so to convince yourself to, or to not even convince yourself, but to have the dedication to your work, to see your project all the way through to completion, including the marketing part of the completion, and
Hmm.
get the project out before you jump to the next one
Yeah.
is very challenging in an environment that's so stimulating.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, your biggest friend when it comes to this kind of stuff is patience and consistency. If
The
you're able
least
to
sexy
nail those
words.
two
People
things,
don't like those
I
things.
know they're not sexy at all, but man, they will do you wonders. People, because like people need to understand, like even with my platforms, this shit didn't happen overnight. Like it took me 6 years, 6 years to get to this point that I'm at right now. And I still feel like I have a long ways to go, right? Patience, consistency, test everything. Some things work, some things don't. Things that work for me may not work for you, and vice versa. You don't have to hit a home run every time, but get that base hit. That works for you. Okay, focus on that. And then start looking at other things. But you need to make sure that you, to your point, if you get a hit, the hit is fun, but now you got to run to first base, right? Making it to second base, if you made it to first base, you might have to wait for the for something else to happen before you can start running. So that's boring. But like with patience, you're gonna make it to second base, and that's exciting. But it's gonna take patience. It's gonna take discipline in order for that to happen, and it's so worth it when you're able to just be kind to yourself, be patient, because it's gonna pay off. You're gonna make it home, and you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that score, and you're gonna look back at that patience and consistency and that hard work you're putting into it, and you're gonna be like, that's why I did it, and it's all worth it, and you're gonna be better off in the future for it.
A, that's beautiful. B, I think you might be like one of the first sports metaphors on the show. C, on how did no one know I have ADHD? I played organized sports for a very, very short time. If the
Yeah.
ball comes at me, it's going to hit me. I was always a theater kid. But also like they should have known because like if I was standing on second base waiting and it was taking too long, I would have been like out in the field sitting on the grass like making a daisy chain. And they were like, you have to get up. And I was like, I don't want to. So
That's
there's
fair.
that.
That's fair. I can make it into a musical theater reference. Learning the choreography of a dance is not easy, right? But like when you learn it, when you're patient and you're consistent and you work hard and you have the discipline to practice it, you're gonna look great on that stage dancing. and it's going to be worth it in the long run.
I also just think that what we're talking about here that's really important is falling in love with the process.
Yes.
I think that for
Hmm.
so many people, like, yes, we need to know what our goal is and we need to know what our end result is. That's really important. And, but also, if you are so focused on getting that result immediately, especially in a way where if you don't get it immediately, you get discouraged and it makes you want to quit, you are going to have a hard time in everything, in building
Yes.
business, in content creation.
Yes.
I saw this video a couple days ago. I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. It was an interview with this guy who was like one of the first vloggers, and he was
Hmm.
talking about how he made a video a day. He just started on YouTube with a video a day back when YouTube like was first starting out.
Sure.
And he
Yeah.
was saying it took him like 8 years to get to 200,000 followers. And he was like $200,000 in debt and nothing
Hmm.
was working. And then it was like 18 months to go from there to like millions and like
Hmm.
to have his life change. And he's like, so it looks like I had this fast rise, but I made thousands of videos, right? I'm making like a video a day every single day. And I'm into, he's
Yep.
like, you're an adult with a wife and a kid who's $200,000 in debt, making a video every day. Like, you're
Yeah.
a loser. And here you are trying to do that. And he's like, no, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And he was just so committed to, and he was like, the word I like to use is patience because it's an unattractive word. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't magic, it wasn't talent, it was just being patient enough and being like dedicated to process.
Yes, you have to be. You don't have a choice. Like it's just one of those things. Like if you want to see success in this, you don't have a choice but to be those things, whether you think it's sexy or not. Like if you decide to not be patient, not be consistent, it's not like it's just going to fall on your lap. It does for some people, and good for them, but that does not happen often. Right? So like you just don't have a choice but to accept those things, and it'll make you better in the long run.
Absolutely. I know we're at time. I want to be mindful. I know I'm your second podcast of the day, but
You're
you're
fine.
busy and you probably have like 22 videos to record after this and a show. Uh,
It's fine. No, I worked this into my day, so you're fine.
I'm so glad to have you. Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
what's coming up next for you and where can people find you?
People can always find me and whatever crazy stuff I'm up to on my website, TheVibeWithKy.com, where you get links to my blog, my podcasts, all the stuff that I'm doing. You can also follow me on any social media platform at TheVibeWithKy. Whatever platform is your favorite, I'm most likely there. I think I'm not on Pinterest yet, but I maybe one day I'll take on that platform when I have the spoons for it. But yeah, the best way to stay up and in touch with me, yeah, is to follow me either on my website or on my social media platforms. I'm always announcing stuff there and all of that. So yeah, that's the best way.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for everything that you do on these platforms. Thank you for your part in helping to end the stigma surrounding mental health and for coaching people and like you're making lives better. You're making lives better with these conversations. So thank you for everything that you're doing. It means a lot.
Thank you. I received that. All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.